You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
I am Coach Jen in Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Allison Renborg in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And you're listening to the monthly Equine Affaire episode of Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for August 17th. This episode is brought to you by Equine Affaire. Good morning, Horse World.
It's the third Thursday of the month. That means it's time for the Equine Affaire episode, North America's premier equine expo and equestrian gathering.
Welcome back, Allison. Allison stops by Horses in the Morning the third Thursday of each month and catches us up. Yep, there we go. Catches us up on all things Equine Affaire. And for those of you who have lived under a rock for the past, 20 years?
25.
25. What is Equine Affaire in a nutshell?
Sure. Equine Affaire is North America's premier equine expo and equestrian gathering. We are kind of 4 days of Disneyland for all things horse.
I think that's probably a good description. I would say it's not just Disneyland, it's Epcot.
Yes.
Because you've never been to Epcot?
I've never been to Epcot, so I don't even know what that means. Why don't you tell me what Epcot is, and then I can agree.
It's the Epcot for horse people. Epcot was designed to be both educational and entertaining.
There you go.
It was supposed to highlight the newest and the greatest and the best. And it was supposed to do that continuously, in that it would keep evolving again and again as new things happened and became available and were invented and got better. And I think that pretty much describes what Equine Affaire does.
I would agree with you now that I know.
If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, go in and do a little research on the history and the original mission statement of Epcot.
Okay.
Because it was kind of that vision of what life is like in the future sort of thing. And I think a lot of what Equine Affaire does discusses and demonstrates and highlights what the most recent and most up-to-date trends are in every aspect of equestrianism.
Jen, do you want my job? Because you sound 100% better than me. And you haven't been in 10 years? I
haven't been in forever. I know. I went to my first trip to an Equine Affaire because there are several locations. It happens several times a year in different locations. Was in Massachusetts, and it was very early on. And I was it boggled my mind. You just walked around, jaw dropped. And then I went to the first or second Ohio one that you had, because that was I think that was the second venue you started, right? Ohio?
We started in Ohio first, and then we had Massachusetts a few years later in 98.
In 98.
Yeah.
And nobody before had ever combined entertainment, education, and shopping all in the same venue, all at the same time. The only place in the United States where those similar things happened were at very big competitions. For example, the event formerly known as Rolex.
Yes.
Or at some of the bigger jumper shows in Wellington, or at the Quarter Horse Congress. Yeah. But that was very much competition based. Mm-hmm. It was all around a competition, and it was all very competition specific. So if you weren't an eventing fan, you're probably never going to go to the event formerly known as Rolex. If you're not into Western sports and or quarter horses, probably never going to go to Congress. Right. And where you guys really found the sweet spot is you run the gamut. Every imaginable sort of equestrian pastime, competition, sport, you can have that.
100%. That's what I love about our affair. And what I love about working there is we don't just cater to one discipline or one type of horse person. We really make an effort to cater to everybody, from the backyard horse owner to the, high level competition professional person. And that's just something that I really love just personally about my job, is we do cater to everybody. Anybody who cares about horses in some way, shape, or form, there's something for you.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool
even
about
if you're a Breyer person, if you're a person who doesn't even own horses, but is passionate about the collection of these beautiful models or the customization, you guys have a big Breyer presence at them, don't you?
We have a lot of booths that sell Breyers. I think that they had more of a Breyer thing in past years.
Mm-hmm. That kind of waxes and wanes.
Yeah. But we do typically have at least one Breyer, like real life Breyer horse in the breed pavilion. And lately it's been Adamek the Akelteki. And I think we've interviewed his owner and talked about him on here in our recent episodes. And that's always fun. I've been really trying to bring that up more because I think it's so cool to meet real life Breyer horses and have them there. But even when we don't have a real life Breyer horse, there's always someone in the trade show selling hundreds of amazing Breyers, that I drool over as I walk by. Because yes, I still have real live horses, but I like to buy at least one Breyer a year.
Only one a year? Oh, you're so restrained.
Well, I try to be.
So in those early years when you guys were just getting started, of the three different aspects of Equine Affaire, the education, the entertainment, and the retail, which was the one that gave you the most stress, the most ulcers in those early years, getting put together and organized?
I can't really speak to that since I only started a few years ago, but based on context and what I've heard from some of the staff members who've been there longer, I would say probably all of it. It's a huge it's a huge undertaking. It's a huge coordination to pull together people from all those three different aspects and to make sure they can all get there on time and have somewhere to stay and know where they're supposed to go on a given day. That continues. We spend all year either working on one event or the other or both at any given time. And our staff...
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How do you basically start planning for next year's, the day after this year's ends? Is that kind of how it goes? Or do they actually overlap?
In some cases, we start sooner. Kogi, who's our president and owner, is always planning ahead. And I see the folders populate on the drive for 2024 and 2025, way in advance. So we're always thinking ahead. Clinicians who can't make it this year, Kogi's usually checking with them to see if they can come next year or 2 years from now. And then I think same for trade show. So, we're constantly rolling with, we got to work on 2024 mass now, even though we're currently working on 2023 mass to get it up and going in a little less than 3 months. So,
yeah. So, about what percentage of the attendees, the vendors, whether they're clinicians, demonstrators, retailers, about what percentage of those are people you reached out to and said, we want you to come, and versus they contacted you and said, we would love to participate?
That's a good question too, because I'm our marketing person, so I don't do a ton of the reach out. But I would say that I field a lot of inquiries through our Facebook or through the phones for people wanting to exhibit or wanting to present. I really can't say percentage wise. I know that Kogi does a lot of outreach for clinicians because we're constantly looking for
you got to get new faces and
and new people and new up and comers and people like Ifa, for example, who's going to be on the show in a little bit. He just started with us last Massachusetts. But then we also want to have the big names who have been there before come back. So it's kind of a mix. I can't give you a percentage, but it's a mix.
It's a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
Is there a clinician or entertainer that you've always wanted to have at Equine Affair that you have not yet been able to nab?
That would be a question for Kogi. And I'll ask her. but I don't know.
Well, we all have our crush, right?
Yeah.
Glenn has wanted to have Kaylee Cuoco on the Horses in the Morning show for 15 years, and we just can't get through the layers of people.
Well, maybe Lisa Wasaki will with her Celeb Horses podcast.
We can try. Try. It's very interesting because when you mention that, have you had that you can recall? I know you've only been with the company for less than a decade. People that have come as demonstrators or clinicians or whatever that were slightly outside of the equestrian world, kind of like Lisa's show. They're celebrities first and equestrians second, although many of them are incredibly accomplished equestrians. You see where I'm going with that?
I do. Not that I know of off the top of my head, but I am sure that there are.
I wonder if any of the rock star equestrians have ever come to Equine Affair and bought a ticket and they were incognito and we didn't even know.
Oh, that I believe 100%. I am sure. Because, I'll tell you a funny story. I was at a horse show, very tiny, dinky little horse show in my hometown of Murfreesboro. I mean, it was just like, I can't even remember what it was. Just very low level, small horse show. And I'm walking around with my camera and I think I'm covering it for the local horse paper. And I walk past someone and she's a mom. She's like really layered because it was cold and she's pushing a stroller. And I recognize her face and I'm trying to place it. And I just sort of step out of her way because I'm just one person and she's pushing a stroller. And she kind of ducks her head when she goes past me. And I thought, well, that's weird. Like, why would somebody, I'm a pretty unassuming person. Why would someone duck their face away? And then about 10 minutes later, I'm chatting with a friend of mine and she says, did you know that Kelly Clarkson is here?
Oh, no.
And I said, that was Kelly Clarkson. I walked past and it turned out, and it's like, no wonder she ducked away from me because I had a camera around my neck. So she probably thought I was going to snap a picture of her, like just being average mom, at a horse show.
Well, good thing you didn't just take a picture of an average mom. See, would have ruined her day.
And I think what happened is one of her stepchildren was showing that day. So she was there to support them and probably being incognito, on purpose. And I just didn't even, and I grew up with Kelly Clarkson. I think I saw the season of American Idol that she won. But it was amazing to just go, that was Kelly. That's why she looked familiar. But okay. And I wouldn't have bothered her because that's just not me. I would have just been like, hey, that's cool. It was Kelly Clarkson and moved on, which is exactly what I did. But I bet that's happened at Equine Affair.
I'm sure it has. Now, see, that's you guys do new stuff every single year. You're constantly coming up with new things to do, see, and participate in an Equine Affair. You could have a Where's Waldo or a scavenger hunt or something like that. Wouldn't that be? I love having a purpose when I go to these things. Okay, you get your scavenger hunt paper and you have to go find these things and prove that you found them and put your name in the hat for a prize. Oh, I'd totally do that.
I've had that thought before. Because I'm constantly thinking, even though we're constantly rolling with, and I'm trying to market 2 events at once, I occasionally have those thoughts. And I've thought about how fun that would be to have like an Easter egg hunt. So maybe in the future that'll come. Yeah. Maybe. We'll see.
Do it at Disney World. And I forget what they call it. They have a name for it, but it's the same idea. You go and you grab you sign up and you grab your little paper. They probably have it on an app nowadays. Oh yeah. And you had to go find these things and then you could earn badges and prizes and you could do that all year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You want my job, don't you? You just showing me up.
I've gone down the rabbit hole. I'm sorry.
You're giving me good ideas. That's what it is.
There we go. Well, speaking of new things, we are going to be getting Ifa Simmonds. Did I say that right?
It's Ifa.
Ifa Simmonds on shortly. But first, we wanted to remind you that we have less than 90 days to go until Equine Affair. And Equine Affair where?
In Massachusetts.
Equine Affair, Massachusetts. So if you haven't booked your hotel yet, now's a good time to do it. And you want to check out the host hotels page on equineaffaire.com. Host hotels meaning that you get special pricing, not because hosts live there.
Exactly.
But you want to check those out. And for August, it is the Sheraton Springfield Monarch Place Hotel. That's a mouthful. And it's only a mile and a half from the Eastern States Expo, where the Equine Affaire Massachusetts happens. And you can check out all the details at equineaffaire.com. And when you call in, mention that you are going to the Equine Affaire. Make it easy. No secret codes. Say, I'm going to Equine Affaire to get the discounted rate.
Ifa Simmonds is a certified fitness performance coach for equestrians with over a decade of experience, and he's the creator of the Equestrian Fitness Academy. Ifa combines his expertise through several certifications, including functional fitness, yoga, and Pilates, among others. He's a rider performance clinician, a writer, and a presenter who's worked with all kinds of equestrian organizations like IEA and IHSA. He will also be the Emcee of the Great Equestrian Fitness Challenge at Equine Affaire this fall, but he will also be a presenter and be hosting interactive exercise workshops called Equestrians in Motion. So let's welcome Ifa to the show. Well, hey, Ifa, welcome to the show.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for having me back again.
Yes, sir. I'm so excited for today. I have been wanting to talk to you for a while, and here you are. So you have been on this show before. Glenn interviewed you at Equine Affaire in Ohio, but let's do a refresher. Can you remind us, what do you do? Who are you? What's your passion? What's Equestrian Fitness Academy? Let's just dive right in.
Okay. All right. Let's go for it. So my name is Ifa and I am the equestrian fitness guy. So what I do is fitness and performance training for riders of all disciplines. So I pretty much help riders on the physical and mental side in my Equestrian Fitness Academy, which is a holistic coaching program that helps riders get from point A to B all the way to Z. And how I do that is through my signature system and my 4 core pillars, which are stability, suppleness, strength, and stamina. And so every single discipline, every rider, we all need a version of those in all 4 in general. So we take you through each one and go over exactly what components need the most work, and we strengthen the ones that are already doing fantastic.
I love that. I love that system. I love the logic behind it. And it makes total sense that we compete. Well, I don't, but equestrians as a whole, we engage in an athletic endeavor. You know, we're using our bodies. We're working with a horse that's using its body. Naturally, we need fitness help and fitness coaching. So I love that you are out there doing this cool stuff. I have been watching your Instagram and your Facebook content lately, and it's on point, man. Like, you have such great stuff out there that you're just giving us for free, which is amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think the idea of free for you and free for me is a little different. But all the long hours and the hard work and the time and dedication that it takes to put out content, whether it is recaps, warm-ups, beneficial components that we all need for ourselves and for the industry in whole, that is my main purpose. And so I want to see within the next 5 to 10 years a completely different looking and feeling industry on the mental and the physical side. So in order to do that, you need someone to kind of stand up and say, hey, I'll be the one or the one of the few that will go along that path. So that is my main goal, is to make sure that we're changing and adjusting the culture that we have now and make it more inclusive for us in the equation with our horses.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, obviously, you know, your fitness.
Right.
I've been watching your content with, for example, you had this great little video about ankle stability exercises, which I loved because I have weak ankles. And so I was watching that. But what's your horsey background? Did you grow up with horses? What's kind of the story there?
Absolutely. So you want the long story? You want the short story?
Well, whichever one you want to do.
I'll give you a condensed version of it. So the quick answer is I wish I grew up with horses. Growing up in the inner city here in New Jersey, it was not a horse-like area. There's more concrete than there is anything else. And so farms and barns was not a part of my daily life or even occasional life. However, as I was a really, really young child, I guess you could say a baby almost, we had a rocking horse, a bouncy rocking horse, and his name was Quaqua. And I love Quaqua. And every time I think of Quaqua, I smile, and so does the rest of my family. However, that was my first experience with a mechanical horse. And then it went a long time until I actually had the opportunity to ride a real horse. But in between that time frame, just to give you a little snippet into the longer story, I saw in downtown Newark, which is one of our big cities in New Jersey where our airport is located, they either used to or they still do, but it's a minimal department now, have mounted police. And that was the first time that I saw real horses with real people on them. And that was a fascinating experience and feeling. And it always seems like mounted police horses are larger than the normal for some reason. But around 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, during my first gym job, I had a coworker who owned her own farm and barn, and she led trail rides. And she invited myself, my family, and anyone else that was interested. And obviously, I took her up on that idea immediately. And from that day on, the love of horses just compounded rather fast. So I would go as often as I could. I took everybody and anybody. And it's actually funny that you mentioned this story because it was just last week, my brother mentioned this same exact scenario where he was like, how do I get back on a horse? He's like, I know I'm talking to the right person, but how do I get back on a horse? He said, because the last time I was on a horse, which is once when you took me years ago when we had, going with that farm. And I was like, wow, that's a long time ago since you've been on a horse. So he says, yeah, let's do it. So we're working on getting him back in the saddle during that time. But currently, I don't ride consistently. It's more intermittently when either one of my clients or one of my clients have a free opportunity, which typically are trainers, or one of them say, hey, do you want to ride or, trot with this horse? And I say, absolutely, sign me up. So that's my opportunity right now. I'm looking forward to getting more saddle time, but as of now, my main focus is to continue to change and adjust where I am and where things are in the industry. So yes, I do enjoy a trail ride every once in a while, and it would be great every weekend, but that's, you can't borrow someone else's horses more than they have the schedule for it. So that's the current situation now with my riding journey.
I love that. And, I have a special place in my heart for anybody who comes on the show or who I get to talk to who didn't grow up in the horse industry, but now they're part of it, because that was me. I didn't grow up in the horse industry. My family were musicians. And it was a long stretch from classical musicians to horses. And my parents had no idea what to do with me, their horse crazy daughter who had no musical ability. But that's a whole other thing. But I just love it when, you can come to the horse industry anyway. It doesn't matter if you were born in it or if you just come to it the way you did through a rocking horse, which I think is so cute. That's awesome. That's so cool, Ifa.
Thank you. The way you said that was really powerful, because oftentimes it's challenging being on the outside of a place that is extremely interconnected and has its own bylaws and ways of doing things. So with that challenge, it's always like trying to remind myself that I don't need to and I shouldn't compare myself to others. And in that same journey, it's, as I always say, it's interesting. I don't typically share things like that, but about a month ago, someone who I met and talked to during a very long time during COVID on Clubhouse. We were in the Equestrians Connect Club together. She and I reconnected recently, who lives overseas. And long story short, she said, you know what? How come we don't see you in the saddle more? And I said, I gave her the reason, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, you know what? The content that lives on your phone that you're nervous to share with us, she said, sometimes we would love to see more Black people in the saddle. Because honestly, it's not something that we get a chance to experience and see enough. And she said, I'm not going to rush you there because that's a personal decision and choice, because I know how the horse industry can be with people and new people, experienced people, whatever it is, with people in the saddle. Everyone has their own opinion. So she says, I understand the reasoning, and I just say when that time frame comes, I think you're going to be a lot more surprised at people who are happy to see you more so in the saddle. And I said, you know what? I'll do that. I can't tell you when, but I'll do that. Because, it's like you're opening up another portal of your life, and it's already a lot when you're creating content and you're in your creative juices and you're doing your best to expand and share and grow in the things that you do know a lot about. So stepping out into something that you are not a professional in, but truly enjoy in your heart of hearts is something that I tend to protect. But look out, everybody. Keep hold on my Facebook and my Instagram and whatever other social media post. Me in the saddle, visually coming soon.
Simmonds in the saddle. It's a whole new series.
Oh, all right. Trail riding with Eve. Got it.
So speaking of horses,
yes.
let's talk about Equine Affaire. So your, if I remember correctly, your first visit to Equine Affaire as a presenter, no less, was last Massachusetts, so 2022. Is that right?
No, actually, it was Ohio. Ohio was my first at the what is it? The convention center. Yes, in Ohio.
Gosh. Okay,
yep.
So was it? So it was Ohio 2022, or it was Ohio 2023?
2023. Yes, your last event was the last event I was at and enjoyed thoroughly.
Okay. So that was your first time. What did you think of it? How was it for you?
Oh my goodness. I loved it. I immersed myself in the entire experience as best I could from morning to evening. I met a ton of different people. I shared the same vehicle with Olympians and high-level presenters of all different disciplines. The experience was beyond words, and I definitely would advise anyone who hasn't been or is on the fence or is already going to, one, check me out there, as I'll be doing a couple different things, but two, also immerse yourself and do different things while you're there, because Equine Affaire does an amazing job at providing something for everyone on the interactive side and the educational side. And myself, I got a bunch of that during that time frame. But funny enough, I was invited to go to Equine Affaire Massachusetts last year, and I wasn't able to make it. And they said, you know what, you would really do a great job here if you were vending and got a booth, because I know you would kill it in Massachusetts. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, I'll put that on my bucket list for next year. And then I got an opportunity to do Equine Affaire in Ohio. And here we are for Equine Affaire Massachusetts. And so I'll have better than a booth during this upcoming show.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what you mentioned, educational and interactive, and that is actually what you're going to be doing. So you're going to be presenting with us in Massachusetts. You've got a couple different sessions on equestrian fitness, but then you're also doing these cool interactive workshops. So tell us about Equestrians in Motion. What's that going to look like?
Excellent. Well, as you mentioned, interactive is kind of something that I always want to make sure that I am within the industry, which is something that people can physically be there and experience and also take part in. So Equestrians in Motion is, funny enough, not something that I created, but it's something that Equine Affaire created for me, and I thought it was amazing. So I said, let's keep this. This is fantastic. Equestrians in Motion. Let's do it. So it's a workshop series where each day, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday of Equine Affaire Massachusetts this year, we'll be doing different focuses on each and every day. i.e., one will be the secrets of balance. That's not the exact name of it, but you get the idea, and so on and so forth. So each and every day in the morning, they're going to build on each other. So this is an interactive small group time frame where I'll be explaining and sharing my expertise and knowledge on these things, but you'll also feel, do, and receive the information that you need to make sure that you understand more about why and how you can implement cross-training principles into your saddle time and also your barn time. So even if you're in between horses and you're not doing as much in the saddle, but you're still around the barn and you're running your own farm or whatever it is, these type of things are really beneficial for all of us.
Awesome. I love it. So people can sign up at the event, right?
At the event, but also what we're going to be doing is providing a either QR code and or web link so that people can sign up in advance, which is actually the best thing because they will end up with a capped amount of space so that obviously I can give my best self to a certain amount of people. So when that link comes out on the website and also in the publications, you'll see that, and it's best to sign up as early as possible so that you make sure you have a spot.
100%. So we'll have that on equineaffaire.com, and I will be posting it when it's available on the Equine Affaire social media channels. So we'll definitely get it out there as much as we can, because I agree, signing up in advance is really the best way to make sure that you're there for Ifa and with Ifa. And I wanted to ask you, what should people wear if they want to come to take part in the workshops? Do you have any recommendations?
Absolutely. I would personally have them come in something that they can move in. So anything that has just enough flexibility in the hip area, the knee area, and the upper body, roughly in the shoulders, depending on the day and the focus of the workshop for that time frame. Now, you can wear jeans, but if they're restrictive, it's going to have an effect. So, if anything, just like a clinic, you can come and do the best that you can. And I always work around what people are able to do, whether that's a physical limitation or an apparel limitation. So, yes.
That's a new phrase, apparel limitation. I love it.
In the Western world, I do warm-ups. And as I mentioned before, I'm on both sides, English and Western. When it comes to the show clothes, it's really tough to get your riders who are ready to go and be dazzled to lift their arms up overhead and to reach from side to side. So when chaps and everything are on, it gets a bit tricky, but we make it happen.
So Equestrians in Motion, that's sort of the perfect and dressing for moving. It's kind of the perfect segue into, not only are you presenting, so you'll be giving presentations and you're doing your workshops, but you're also going to MC a brand new event at Equine Affaire this year called the Great Equestrian Fitness Challenge. And I just want to say thanks, Ifa, for volunteering or agreeing to MC our brand new event. It's fun.
I'm extremely excited. As soon as the idea was presented or brought up in whatever capacity, I said, wow, that sounds perfect. That sounds like equestrian fitness heaven. So I'm very excited to see and be a part of this inaugural opportunity and event that's going to then continue what I told you before, which is creating that interactive environment where people get to see, experience, and learn from me, as well as Equine Affaire on some of the things that they do so well and just expanding onto now.
Yeah. So I'm going to share a little bit about the event, and then I have some questions for you about kind of general barnyard fitness. But so first of all, so the Great Equestrian Fitness Challenge, this is an idea that we all hatched in a staff meeting, I think earlier this year. And it's an event with 3 different components. So it'll take place on Saturday, November 11th, starting at 1:30 p.m. in the Mallory South Arena. And so you'll get there and you'll sign up just outside the arena. And there are 3 different events. So we'll have the Barn Chores Marathon, we'll have the Bouncy Pony Race, and we'll have the Horse Nugget Relay. And I'm just I'm grinning like an idiot just describing these because it's going to be the best time ever. So the Barn Chores Marathon, it's basically going to be an obstacle course and you might be doing things like moving hay or wheeling a wheelbarrow or carrying water. All the things that us horsey people do every single day. We've got our barn muscles muscled up for that. And then the fastest, most efficient contestant is going to get the trophy. For the Bouncy Pony Race, it's exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of adults are going to be riding bouncy ponies up and down the arena, and whoever gets to the finish line first will win. And then the horse nugget relay, which I'm sure you're all crazy curious about. Basically, you're going to have a partner, and you're going to use your teamwork to scoop horse nuggets into a wheelbarrow, following a nugget trail up and down the arena. And so we're going to have prizes for all three events. Ifa is going to be our MC. It's going to be a big old time. It's free to Equine Affaire attendees. You come to the event, you can participate as long as you sign up. But yeah, that's kind of the scoop. No pun intended. The Great Equestrian Fitness Challenge. So my question for you, Ifa, your Equestrian Fitness Academy obviously focuses on exercises and things like that we can do to improve our form in the saddle, to be more effective riders. What about barn chores? What do you think about barn chores? How athletic are we when we're hauling water and stuff like that?
It definitely takes components of athleticism to do what we do on a daily basis. 100%. Lifting buckets of water, one arm or two arms, and walking gingerly so that you don't end up with all the water in your boots or your shoes is extremely challenging and involves a lot of core, whether it's core stability or core strength. That's just one thing. Or scooping nuggets, as you like to say, moving wheelbarrows, and also jumping in certain different motions all take levels of athleticism. And so as I do barn fitness on a weekly basis in person live, I've seen and experienced a lot from a different vantage point, right? And so it takes a lot of training to be more efficient at that. So just like any other sports or culture that does something better, in 2023, the thing that we learned and the science has already proved that doing additional things to help strengthen the body outside of the normal things that we do lead to things taking less energy and requiring more strength to do efficiently. So I always advise people to do the extra or go the extra and learn just what that takes so that by the end of the day, you don't have nearly as much of that tired feeling that typically takes place after you've done quite a bit of required chores.
100%. So basically mucking stalls, carrying water, any million of, leg wrapping, just all the things. Moving hay, all those things, that all makes you stronger, makes you more flexible, kind of helps you become more efficient, more muscular. And then that's got to translate to the saddle, right? So it's all part of horses. Horses are a workout. Let's just say it.
Horses are definitely a workout. And so is the idea of doing the chores 100%.
Yeah. So, all right. So cool. So Ifa, I'm super excited. You're going to MC this event and we're just going to see what happens. I think it's going to be fun.
I know it's going to be fun. I'm bringing smiles and good energy, and I know that I won't be the only one.
Ifa's lovely.
He's amazing. Don't tell everybody, but he's one of my favorites.
He's a little bit inspiring. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to get to that particular version of Equine Affaire, but I'm sure he'll be back again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we forgot to ask him what all of his social stuff is. So Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Does he have them?
All the things. He has them, and he puts out, like I mentioned, lots of great content. So watch his stories, watch his posts, especially on Instagram. It's ifa.fit, and that's ifa.fit. on Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's Ifa-fit-equestrian. And then his website is ifafit.com.
There we go. And I'm sure if you just put Ifa Fit in there, you'll find it. Yeah.
You'll
he has
find
good
him.
SEO. Yeah.
You'll find him. Yep.
All right. You can go to Equine Affaire as a participant or as a guest buying a ticket. And if you'd like to participate in a clinic or competition at Equine Affaire, because they have clinics you can ride in, the deadline to apply with the Ride with a Pro or to compete in the versatile horse and rider competitions is September 8th. So if you want to sit on a horse at Equine Affaire, you got to do it, sign up by September 8th. And visit equineaffaire.com, and the application materials are there under the Participate tab for the Massachusetts events. And it is sponsored by Fair Hill Saddlery. And Ride with a Pro offers equestrians like you and me the opportunity to ride with amazing clinicians like Jason Irwin, Stephen Peters, Jeannie McDonald, Julie Goodnight, Brandy Lyons, Bronwyn Urin, and lots more. If you'd like to volunteer, yes, you can volunteer at Equine Affaire too and get free admission for your troubles. You can apply at equineaffaire.com, and you need to do that by September 27th. Well, let's get on our next guest. Woohoo!
Kelly Jones of Kelly J. Leather hails from West Sussex, England. She is a Society of Master Saddlers Master Bridle Maker and a qualified bridle fitter. She will be coming all the way across the pond to present with us in Massachusetts this fall, and we're thrilled to have her on the show today, too. So let's welcome Kelly.
Well, hi, Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about where you're from. Obviously, you're not in the U.S.
No. So I am actually from a small town in England, in West Sussex, called Midhurst. So yeah, quite far away from the US. So it's an honor to be on today and discuss why I'm flying all the way over to the Equine Affaire.
Yes, and this is going to be your first time coming to Equine Affaire and coming to the US. Is that right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable opportunity, and I'm so excited. I've actually followed Equine Affaire for a few years now, and it's always been sort of, I wish one day. And when I got the email of the invitation, I was actually just about to go and see a client for a bridal fit, and I nearly exploded out my car. And then I was like, okay, compose myself. And I went to go and see my client, and she was like, I can tell something really exciting is happening. And I'm like, yes, but I can't quite say yet. But I was on cloud nine. I was dancing all the way home. I'm so excited to go out there, and even just I'm very excited, obviously, to talk, but also to see the event. It just looks amazing, and nothing can really compare to what we've got in the UK.
Well, I was going to ask, are there expos like this in the UK? Do you present at things like this over there, or is it just not really like that?
We have a few things, but majority of the expos, they're more for you mostly just have the riders, so less educational. There are the odd things, but nothing compared to Equine Affaire. And I do quite a few talks, but more for camps and clinics. So yeah, nothing quite to this size, but I'm super eager for the opportunity and excited, and yeah, can't wait.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm even more excited now that I've heard it's your first time coming to the U.S. and you're so excited. That makes me excited because there's nothing better than, we want to all get together and enjoy ourselves. Like this is what Equine Affaire is about, is people who are excited to get together and excited to talk about horses. And you're both of those. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. I could talk about horses for hours upon hours. So being in the place where everyone else is happy to do that, and where you want to whip out your phone and go, oh, look, this is my picture of my horse, and then we can compare photos. It's just, most people, if you go to a normal, just like a football or something like that, people think you're crazy if you do that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do. So you're kind of unique, at least in my experience. I don't think I had heard of a custom bridle fitter maybe before I heard about you. So tell us about what that entails. What do you do for a living?
So I personally think I've got one of the best jobs ever. So my job titles are, I'm a master bridle maker. and a qualified bridle fitter with the Society of Master Saddlers. And I'm also a Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust scholar. And what all that entails is I make, design, hand make, hand stitch my own bridles to order to suit each horse's needs. But I also go out and fit them so I can measure up, or I do remote fittings as well. So I make absolutely everything to order. I have no stock. So everything is made to suit that individual horse. Very similar to having a custom-made saddle, which we've done for years and years. The custom-made bridles, although the more traditional style you've had done before, but not really to the caliber what I do of although I do eventing, dressage, show jumping, majority of my customers are high-end dressage riders. And so I have international dressage riders, para riders. I pretty much make anything to do with the horse's head and bridle. But so that's sort of an overview of what I do.
And what led you to bridle fitting? Was that you just, as a little girl, you're like, this is what I want to do someday? Or how did that happen?
So it all started, first off, when I was about 6. I wanted to become a farrier. And then I think about 3 years later, I saw my farrier nearly fly across the stable. So yeah, it was just something that I decided actually maybe I value my back. I'm always very open that I actually suffer quite severely with dyslexia. So sitting in an office, typing all day is just not my cup of tea. I get very frustrated with like certain parts of writing, and I'm always a creative person. So it was my saddle fitter at the time who said, oh, well, why don't you look into saddlery? And originally I was going to go into harness making because carriage driving harnesses, just like you've got that out there, we don't really have the Amish community like you do, who create obviously beautiful harnesses. So there is a quite big gap in the UK for harnesses. Since going through my training, which takes 7 years, I discovered that I didn't really enjoy harness. It's quite a lot of machining work, using the sewing machine. And I really preferred hand stitching and really sort of the finesse of bridles. And that's where my love came from it. So it was sort of, I didn't set out on doing that's what I wanted to do from a young age, but saddlery has been pretty much since about age 16. That's where I wanted to go down. And the funny story is, once I qualified, before I became a master, I did my Queen Elizabeth scholarship funding. And I managed to shadow an amazing bridle maker called Izzy Russell. And a lot of people have not heard of Izzy Russell, but I guarantee majority of the horse industry has seen Izzy's bridles because Valagro used to wear them. So they're really special bridles. And funny enough, even well before I met Izzy, I looked at a photo of Valagro and I said to myself, really one day I want to make that bridle. I want to make a bridle as good as that. And it's a rolled, beautiful white noseband, patent, crystals. And when I was doing my shadowing with Izzy, she pulled out a piece of paper and I looked at it and I looked at the horse's name and it was called Blueberry. And I was like, oh, that's a nice name. And she went, no, just look at the owner. And I went, oh my God, that's Valagro's measurements. So I actually made his bridle and it is now my demo bridle. So I can take it out and use it to measure up horses, but it's all of Valagro's measurements, which I just think is just amazing. Sadly, I never got to meet him, but maybe one day I'll have my own a bridle on an equivalent of Valagro and someone else can dream to copy it.
Absolutely. I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, that's so cool. So I wanted to ask you about the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship.
The Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust was formed to help people in traditional crafts. So that could be sculpture or quite a few people who make musical instruments. But I applied for bridles because obviously saddlery is an extremely traditional craft. It just gave me funding as a grant to train under another bridle maker, which was just an amazing experience. And I'm extremely honoured. And every year they do applications, but sadly it is limited to the UK.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. Yeah. I was like, you mentioned it and I saw it in your bio and I'm like, I'm going to ask her about that because I'm not familiar. That's so cool. So I wanted to ask you about bridle fitting. is it something that we need a completely custom fitted bridle for our horses to be at their best? Or can we, let's say, someone in the US who maybe can't afford or can't, figure out how to work with you, what can they do at home? Like, how can they learn from you even remotely or make things better for their horses?
Yeah, so that's the real key point of my talks is they're not a sales pitch at all. What I try and do is educate the general public on the basic principles of bridle fitting, because you can do some really simple things to really improve your horse's performance and welfare. And people, they go, oh God, I can't believe I've not thought of that. And there are certain parts of the horse's face that you really do need to avoid pressure points on. Sort of the cheekbones. A really important joint that we've learned so much on in recent years is the TMJ joint. It's called the temporomandibular joint. Really simply, if you follow your horse's eye up before you hit the ear, there's like this weird large joint. That's the TMJ joint. And it's such an important joint on your horse's head, to the point that there was a horse in Newmarket that was showing high limb lameness. They could not work out where the lameness was coming from. And just by chance, the vet was like, I'm going to nerve block their head. So just slightly block out, just to double check. They nerve blocked just the TMJ joint and the horse became sound behind. So it shows how important the TMJ joint is. If you, obviously that horse was uncomfortable and it did have an issue, but if you imagine you having a buckle sat just underneath your brow band, but right onto that TMJ joint, that's not going to be comfortable for the horse. So just simple things. And that's what my talk is about. Well, both of my talks, I will outline sort of the fundamentals of when you go to a shop and you buy a bridle and you put it on your horse and you go, I think that fits. But sometimes you just may need some shorter cheek pieces or just need a buckle adjusting, and your local saddler or should be able to, if they're a bench saddler, should be able to shorten things and just make your horse a lot more comfortable. And again, like brow bands, you may need the neck size up of brow bands to stop the headpiece pushing forward. And that's what I really like to educate the customer, just to do some simple things to make your horse a lot more comfortable. You will notice in the long run, I have so many physios coming to me after I've correctly fitted a bridle, and they're going, that horse is so much more comfortable now. I don't think I need to come out and see this horse quite as much, because it's the bridle. The bridle's not causing unnecessary tension. Yeah, there are lots of simple things you can do, and you can when you work with a bridle fitter, your dentist, your physio, your trainer, you can obviously create your horse to be a lot more comfortable. And when you've got a comfortable horse, it increases its performance, and that could be just going out on trails, or doing Grand Prix dressage. Wow.
That's so great. And especially the story you were telling about the horse with the TMJ and they nerve blocked it and suddenly he was sound again. That just shows you what even something so small as a buckle in the wrong place can cause a huge issue. Oh, that's interesting. Is the TMJ issue or pressure on that joint the most common issue you see in bridle fit, or is there something else that you see more often that's like, I know exactly what's wrong and it's this half the time?
Majority of the time, I say 50-50 TMJ joint and headpiece. So people go out and they go, oh, great, I want a really big padded headpiece for my horse, and it needs to have a cutaway ear and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it can fit a horse, and sometimes a particular style of headpiece will not fit a horse. It's just like saddles. You may think you're going out and buying the best saddle that, oh yeah, it fitted my friend's horse really well, but that may not fit your horse. So just sort of looking at your horse's head conformation, how much space it's got between its ear and the C1, so the first vertebrae joint. And then also on the pole, if it's not got a huge amount of space on its pole, if you buy a really padded headpiece, sometimes it actually puts more pressure and pushes the ears forward, and that's not comfortable. It's just like wearing like a helmet that is too big for you, and it's sort of sitting too low and it's pushing on your ears. You imagine wearing that on a trail ride for 45 minutes, it's not going to be comfortable. So that's exactly how your horse feels. But also, obviously, that's English riding. But sometimes Western riding, you need to sort of look at your horse's head conformation and sort of assess of going, oh, okay, well, that may work and that may not work. And I actually sometimes say the more traditional headpiece sometimes is better than something that is too big or too small. So yeah, there's lots of different things. So I'd say TMJ and headpiece, and then the last thing that so many people do is do the nosebands up too tight.
Yeah.
But slowly we are changing that, and I'm hoping the FEI new rules they're hoping to bring forward for Paris will start that ball rolling, but also educational and educating on different nosebands. And there's so much to cover, and I could talk about bridles for hours. And if anyone bumps into me at Equine Affaire, I pretty much always walk around with my baseball cap with my logo on. For anyone, I'll be there on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I'm happy to chat for hours about bridles and horses. I'm always an open book, and even if you're not going to Equine Affaire and you're unsure, I'm always happy to have chats over a Skype or Facebook or whatever, because education is such a passion for me, and I really think it's a relatively new world, bridle fitting. So the more people we can educate, we can spread the word quicker.
100%. And that's something I wanted to bring up is, of course, you'll be at Equine Affaire and you'll be giving, I think, 2 talks, and you just issued an open invitation for everyone to come chat with you. But you also do remote fittings through your website, right?
Yeah. So on my website, I have really simple customization forms. So you can choose what style brow bands you want, if you want rolled, flat, and I can either do it, there's a step-by-step guide of how to measure your bridle, and then I can learn so much from just photos. But then also I can do a consultation, a video consultation, either with you, with your horse, or with you at your home measuring your bridle. I'm really flexible with that. So that's all on my website. It's called Design and Customize Your Bridle, or Design and Measure Your Bridle, sorry. You do have to log in, but it is totally free to log in and have a look and have a play around. The only reason why I had to put it in behind a login screen is just so I can contact the people who are, if they're interested. I've just got a little bit more information, but it's just an email and a name. There's no card details taken at all, and I can do a bridle fitting consultation, and if you decide not to go ahead, that's no problem. I'm really flexible, and to be honest, I'm really not a very good businesswoman. I always put the horse and the rider's happiness first, so I'm really not a salesperson. So much to some people getting head scratching, and they go, oh, you work 6-7 days a week, and your day off you're still doing online consultations. And I'm like, yep, I don't mind, I love it.
Well, and that's what's made this talk so fun, is you're clearly passionate about it and you love it. And I think you're going to be a fabulous addition to Equine Affaire, and I can't wait to meet you in person. But that website, if you want to learn more about Kelly and you can't come to Equine Affaire, would be kellyjleather.co.uk. And she's also on Facebook at kellyj.leather. And then, of course, we want you to come to Equine Affaire in Massachusetts and learn from Kelly. Track her down. You'll see her walking around and also presenting. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Kelly. This has been awesome.
No, been pleasure. And I cannot wait to meet you guys. And I hope that November is going to come along nice and quickly.
You can learn more about Equine Affaire at our website, equineaffaire.com, our Facebook page at Equine Affaire, or on our Instagram or Twitter at Equine Affaire. And you can follow Horses in the Morning on Facebook. Just search for Horses in the Morning.
And again, for those of you who have lived under a rock for 25 years, Equine Affaire is spelled equine, the regular way, and affaire is AFFAIRE. There you go.
We'll see you at Equine Affaire.